Hey there, everyone. It is Michael Tasner. So get this camera working here. Looking a little fuzzy on my side. Let's see. Okay. All right, there we go. Perfect. So I hope that you are having a fantastic day so far. If you could just pop a little note, just let me know that my audio sounds okay. And then I'm going to dive in. I've got some really great content locked and loaded for today. So it just looks like audio is working well. Perfect. All right. So I wanted to jump on this afternoon and do a structured Facebook Live and do two things. Number one, I want to answer a couple of questions. And number two, I wanted to talk about this concept of hybrid preschool, online, offline, like what does that look like? And I wanted to give you some data. I wanted to give you some trends. I wanted to tell you a little bit more about what we are seeing as we speak. So this is your first time tuning in, a quick reminder. So I run an agency that works with hundreds of childcare centers each and every month. And we're normally hired to drive enrollments, drive revenue. So we are a revenue growth agency. And I'm seeing a lot of interesting trends, a lot of changes, a lot of pivots almost every single day. Like it seems like literally daily there is something new that transpires or a new opportunity or a new challenge. And then you've got to get creative and look at, what can you do to overcome it? How can you solve it? How can you not only solve it, but how can you prosper from everything that's going on? And not only prosper, but just not, I was going to say thrive, but thrive isn't the right word. Just continue to make that impact. And I feel like now more than ever is your time to shine. Your time to shine. So first off, I'm going to answer a couple of questions that some of our listeners have submitted over the last week. So I did one of these last week. I'm trying to find a time that works well for everyone. It seems like everyone has a different time that they like. Some people are like, I want it really early, but if I do it at 8 in the morning Eastern, that's 5 a.m. on the West Coast. And then if I do it late, some people are like, well, that's only 3 in the afternoon. So like there's never a perfect time, but I figured I would just jump on here and do a live. So I want to start with the first one. The first question that has been asked is, how are centers dealing with the restrictions on capacity? How are they dealing with it? Are they dealing with it? So I figured I would answer it. It's not my area of expertise, but I'll tell you kind of what we're seeing and what we're hearing from other centers. So they have had to, adapt. There really isn't an option. If you're found to be not in compliance, you could get shut down. So they don't want to be doing anything that's kind of not outside the law or anything like that, because we're hearing of a lot of kind of random inspections and drop-ins and things like that to make sure that you are within compliance. So they're getting a little bit creative with times. I've seen some centers that have pivoted. If they have a smaller center, they've pivoted to more half days so that they could have families in the morning and then the afternoons. And that doesn't necessarily replace everything, but at least it gives them just a little bit more flexibility. I've seen a lot of centers that have never offered before or after school care that have now started offering before and after school care. I have seen a lot of centers that have started offering care even on Saturdays, for example. So what you need to think about, and this will tie into the hybrid stuff that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, but when you're looking at how do you pivot at your center, what do you need to do to pivot? You need to look at where the attention is. What are the families thinking about? Like what is on their mind right now? And it obviously varies state by state, city by city, county by county. It varies. Are there going to be some school? Is there going to be virtual? So a lot of what is kind of dictating how things are going to go in the childcare space is being dictated based on what local schools are doing. So is kindergarten going to open up, or is it going to be hybrid? Is it going to be virtual? What is going to happen there? What are the class sizes going to look like? So if you start to think about, well, then what's on the mind of the parent? So let's say they have a child that would be coming to your center, and they also have a child in elementary school and a child in middle school. Well, they're now thinking, geez, what's going to happen with my other two kids? And how is that going to either positively or negatively affect things? So in Buffalo, New York, where I live, we're basically given, I live in a suburb of Buffalo, but we're given two different options. So we're given the option of hybrid. So you attend 2 days and then you basically don't do much else. And so 2 days in person. And then the other set of kids will attend the other 2 days. So they're kind of splitting it by last name. Or you go 100% virtual. Now, put yourself in the shoes of the families that are making those decisions. Everything comes down to making those decisions. If they're having to decide between potentially the health and well-being of their kids and sending their kids to school, I mean, it's a tough choice. Like, how do they make that determination? So let's say that the parent says, okay, we're going to do virtual. Now what? Now the parent is going to have to be overseeing the students, their kids. Now the parent that also is working a job and the father's working a job, or the mother's, they're both working jobs. They may or may not be at home. Now they're going to have to try and oversee everything that's going on. So they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, they're nervous. You need to put yourself in those parents' shoes. And that's going to help us start to spot the opportunities. So that was the question, the first question of what are the centers doing to kind of adapt to the changes in regulation? They're just having to adapt. There really is there's no other options. They're adapting, they're following the guidelines, and they're looking at how they can get creative with other products or services. Second question I had is, Michael, just reading the question here because I have them down here. What are you seeing to drive enrollments now? So it's the same stuff that has been working for years and years and years is the same stuff that's working today, and that is paid traffic. It's the fastest way. It's the strategy that I constantly talk about. It's getting your center in front of targeted eyeballs very, very rapidly. So getting your center in front of families on Facebook, getting your center in front of families on YouTube, on Google, on Bing, on Pinterest, all those different places, Instagram. So it's finding the right families that you want to target, getting your center in front of them. But here is the key to all of this is, so that strategy has been working for years and years and years. However, the copy, the content has had to change drastically. So whereas 6 months ago, I could run an ad that would say, now enrolling, get a week free, schedule a tour. That ad would work perfectly. It would work. Now the ad has to say, we could talk about the 1 week free, but we're talking about safety. We're talking about how we're new sanitizing protocols, exceeding all the state CDC regulations. Like, we're now having to talk about all of that. We're running videos showing how we're sanitizing toys, which is a fun topic. I did more research than I've ever done on that topic to write a blog post about how to sanitize toys. Learned about fog machines, learned about commercial dishwashers. So that was a lot of fun. But they're just having to continue to leverage those tactics because you have to get in front of these families. You've got to get those eyeballs on your center now more than ever. Heed this advice that the next 60, 90 days will be the most impactful in your childcare business for the next year, 2 years, even beyond. You have to set the tone now. You have to show yourself as a leader in the space. You have to show how you're pivoting, how you're adapting, what you're doing. You need to get your name out there because there's going to be a lot of changes over the next year. And I need you to be leading that pact. Got a few more questions, but I want to pivot over to the hybrid stuff. So let me pull up my notes. Hold on a second. All right. So hybrid can mean a couple different things. So I want to let you know what I mean when I say hybrid, because most people think hybrid means online and off. And that is definitely one definition, and that's one model we're going to talk about. But what I want you to start thinking about with hybrid is there any kind of hybrid model, a different model that you can deploy at your center that you have never thought of? So if you're looking at aiming to get more enrollments the next 30, 60, 90 days, which is, what all the centers that we're talking to as we speak are looking for. They're looking for more enrollments as we speak. I need you to get creative. So option A, and these are in no particular order. Option A, offer an online version where people can come to your center a couple days a week, and then they can get online instruction as well. That can be done through Zoom. That can be done through Teachable, Google Classroom. I could do, 5 hours just on the types of technology that you could use. But if you don't have any kind of offline digital component, please let me know. Because that one little thing could literally make or break the difference of you succeeding or not over the next 3, 6, 9 months. I need you to start forecasting for what ifs and being ahead of those what ifs. So God forbid, what if COVID comes back and everything gets shut down again? And we're back to where things were in March, where things were chaotic and your centers were at like 10, 20% capacity. What happens if that comes up again? Okay, well, great. Let's forecast that, plan for the worst, hope for the best. So if that's the worst case scenario, which to me it probably is the worst case scenario, well, what if you had an online version where you could still be charging and they could be getting stuff in the mail physically, and they also could be getting some live interaction and really turning it more into a community? One of the big things that's been popping up insanely quick as of late has been pods. So they've been popping up, and the pod, there's lots of different ways to define pods. People are calling them like the pandemic pods and things like that. So looking at it and having small groups of people that kind of meet. But how could you foster that pod environment digitally? And not just on Zoom. I need you to think beyond that. How could you get stuff delivered to them physically in the mail? How can you still have some individual interaction? How can you still have art shows? You've got to find ways to accomplish that. And if you plan for all of that and you're locked and loaded, ready to go, you are well ahead of the curve, So that's the first option when I talk about hybrid. Second option, and I really want you to consider this one if you have the way to do it. So second option is the ability to offer school age kids, and you can cap it at a certain age, but school age kids to come to your center and execute their virtual learning that they're doing with the local schools at your center. So you're providing them with a desk, you're providing them with supervision, you're providing them with meals, nice outdoor space, quiet areas, all that stuff is being provided for them. So if you go back to what I said earlier of putting yourself in the shoes of the parents, putting yourself in their shoes, how can you help them stay focused at work? How can you help keep their minds off of worrying that their kids are still learning and advancing so that they're learning and growing? Well, the way that you do that is by giving them that space. So they now can drop their kids off and they can attend from X time to X time. And you now have another source of income and you're doing some good for the community. So that is one that I do not want you to sleep on. Think about that one. Do you have a way to execute that? I'm not saying you want to have a whole center of 18-year-olds. That's not what I'm getting at. But could you have kindergarten, first, second? Like, what age could you go up to? Have those spaces and still be charging hundreds of dollars a month, even more. So now you're bringing that revenue in, and again, you're helping people out. Third hybrid option, I'm just going to take a sip of water. So I got this insane jug that my wife says is like obnoxious. So it's a gallon jug. I got a gallon jug because apparently I'm not drinking enough water. So this is meant to make sure that you drink lots and lots of water. But it's looking at, like I talked earlier, is there anything else that you can do that you have not done before? Before school care, after school care, Saturdays, evenings, what can you do? So if the parent now is, they've decided, okay, they're going to keep their kids all during the week, and they're now going to have to try and school them and keep an eye on them, and they get no time to themselves. What about half days on Saturdays? What about drop-ins? And I know drop-ins kill your ability to kind of forecast, which I know is a challenge, but what if the drop-ins are, you can give 24 hours notice and you can have a day rate? You might say, well, Michael, we don't do that. Why not? If you think you can offer it, why not start to test some of this stuff out? Start to look at how you can accommodate school-age kids and help them and continue to grow your center. Look at how you can start to offer online curriculum, how you can foster kind of an online pod, but doing it in a way that's not just plain Jane, where you're just giving them like a 20-minute Zoom or something like that. I need it to be interactive. If this is going to be what the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months or longer looks like, you might be here. You got to go way up. You got to take your stuff up to a whole nother level. You need to start looking at your curriculum and looking at what else you can do to enrich those children's lives, make a difference, make an impact, and help the parents. Because at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that the parents and the kids are both taken care of. And at this stage, not only am I worried about the kids, I'm worried about the sanity of the parents. Like, I'm talking to my neighbors and things like that, and people are still nervous, scared. Some families are saying they're going to send their kids to private school because the classrooms are smaller. Like, they're not going to see their friends there. You've got to think through this stuff. Put yourself in their world and start to look at what can you do to positively impact their lives and those families. And when you start to think about that and you start to not meditate on it, but you just start to visualize it, and you take 15 minutes a day and you start to think about it, ideas are going to come to you. Ideas will start to come to you. So that's what I wanted to talk about with hybrid. I want to answer one or two questions, and then I'll let you guys and gals scoot for the day. I wanted to do just a quick live and throw 20, 25 minutes of content. So we talked about what kind of ads are working, how have the centers adapted to kind of the changing regulations. So we talked a little bit about that. This question is about staff motivation. So I do actually another live with Julie Barkis, and normally she talks about staff motivation. That's more her cup of tea and her area of expertise. But I talked about a concept the other day called The Dream Manager, and it's a book called The Dream Manager. And it's all about how you can work with your company, work with your team to accomplish their dreams. And I'd highly encourage you to pick up the book. And I have found that out of everything that I've ever done, this dream program has made the biggest impact for myself personally and for my team. And what it's all about is really, how can you help your team members accomplish their dreams? They fill out a little dream sheet. You make them a nice dream board visually or in person. That's like physically, like a nice poster, for example. And from there, you just look at what can you do to help them? How can you help them accomplish their dreams? Whether it's to go somewhere, vacation somewhere, buy something, whatever it is. But as I've found and started to study, as you start to help them accomplish their dreams, an incredible sense of loyalty continues to move into the organization. So I've granted a bunch of dreams. And again, personally, it is my ultimate favorite thing to do. On a professional level, the people that I've granted the dreams for, I know that they are now more loyal than ever. And they have a deeper commitment to myself and our organization. So that'd be one thing that I want you to look at. Can you implement at a small scale the Dream Manager program at your center? And that'll just start to just breathe some excitement, because you've got to also think about your staff. They're nervous. They're looking to you for answers and guidance. So if you lead with things like this, I promise you that it will start to positively impact your center. So I'm going to tackle those 3 for today. As always, like this, share it, comment, questions. I'm at your service. I will pop on probably even before Thursday, but I'm going to make sure that I've got a structured time every single week, a structured topic. But I hope you have a great rest of your week. Get some enrollments, but please, please, please do not sleep on this hybrid model. Look at what you can do to execute it, and you will continue to grow and make that impact. Have a great rest of your Thursday. I'll talk to you soon.